media tells us that in October of 2001, top U.S. government officials received a highly classified intelligence report warning that terrorists had acquired a 10-kiloton nuclear bomb and were planning to smuggle it into New York City, where it could, if detonated, kill many hundreds of thousands of people and destroy much of Manhattan. This intelligence report, thank God, was later judged to be false, but it was never judged to be implausible or impossible. The gravest danger in the world today is a threat from nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons. The likeliest use of these weapons is in terrorist hands, and preventing the spread and use of nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons and materials should be the central organizing principle on security for the 21st century.
More countries and entities are aggressively pursuing weapons programs, missile programs, and advanced conventional weapons programs, and more countries are initiating or considering such programs. The threat is compounded because of the ties by certain of these states to non-state terrorist groups that are actively seeking unconventional weapons. The threat is from real countries and real groups with real names and real capabilities that pose real security problems for the United States, our friends and allies around the world.
There's much evidence that Al-Qaeda is very determined to get nuclear weapons. And I think in their public statements, their documents, private conversations, that's quite clear. It's also that they were quite resourceful, and they were striving for the mastery and self-sufficiency in making weapons of mass destruction. And you see the same kind of philosophy in their efforts to make biological and chemical weapons. I think that if Al-Qaeda is still interested in these weapons, and I believe they are, we do have to worry a great deal that they are regrouping or recruiting others. And particularly have to worry that they will recruit scientists and technical people who are able to either make nuclear weapons or have access to fissile material.
That is why Homeland Security and the defense against catastrophic terrorism must begin with securing weapons and fissile materials in every country and every facility that has them. Yes, this is an awesome challenge, there's no doubt about that, but it is finite and it is doable.
The threats we face from the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and the outlaw regimes and terrorists that might possess them place disarmament at the center of our global security strategy.
September 11th made these issues more immediate, obviously. That day demonstrated the unblinking commitment that terrorists have to mass destruction, including their blithe indifference toward killing thousands of innocents. If these purveyors of hate manage to acquire the deadly materials necessary for nuclear or radiological weapons, I think it's quite clear they would surely find ways to use them.
It does seem to me that September 11th changed a lot of the internal thinking inside the administration on this particular question. It was no longer possible to think about the possibility of the collapse of the non-proliferation effort. It was no longer acceptable that we would live in that kind of a world, and this began to shift the center of gravity in the debate inside the administration, in my view as an outsider, on these questions of regimes and non-proliferation.
It is certainly the case that since last we met, non-proliferation has gotten far more public attention, has risen, in fact, to near to the top of the international agenda. On the other hand, very little effort, attention, or funding has been directed towards strengthening policies directed to the heart of what we mean by non-proliferation, namely stopping it before it happens. Why, with the urgency of the threat so much clearer, is this happening, and how can it be addressed?
The proliferation of weapons of mass destruction is a complex and multifaceted issue. Its proper solution lies in political and diplomatic means, and a comprehensive approach to address both the symptoms and root causes. Countries have sufficient tools to address the symptoms. But what about the larger environment?
The weapons of mass destruction in Iraq and elsewhere may be dismantled and destroyed, but not the knowledge to create them. And that knowledge and the ability to create them will not be forgotten or turned back. Assessing threats at the beginning of the 21st century requires a wider lens appreciation of the realities of the world, understanding the causes of conflict and hopelessness and despair, finding creative solutions and alternatives, and defining America's leadership role in an uncertain and still dangerous world. With America's great power comes great risk and great responsibility, but also unprecedented opportunities for America working with her friends to help make a better world for all mankind.
Working together, we can make the world safer. We owe our people, our children, and their children nothing less. We owe them a world where nuclear and radiological materials are secure, not just in Russia, but elsewhere throughout the world. We owe them a world where terrorists have little chance of getting their hands on these materials, which just might discourage them from trying in the first place. And we owe them a world where nations work together to achieve these lofty objectives.
The new century ushers in both opportunities and challenges. Let us work together to meet these challenges and to contribute to the development and improvement of the international non-proliferation regime and to international peace, stability, and development.
We're in the race of our lives. We are well past the time where we can take satisfaction with a step in the right direction. A gazelle running from a cheetah is taking a step in the right direction. But it's not just a matter of direction, it's a matter of speed. We're not moving as fast as we can. We're not moving as fast as we must.